Hey everyone, welcome back to Nashville at the Automotive Logistics and Supply Chain Red Sofa in partnership with Venturis, and I'm very pleased to be joined here by Logen Lytle, who's leading on supply chain technology here in North America for Honda, who joined us on a session talking about organizational change, so much happening at Honda because of this strategic transformation. So I kind of wanted to start there, Logen. Could you outline a bit about the transformation that's ongoing at Honda and how that's aligning with the technology exploration that you do?
Yeah, absolutely. So over the past 4 or 5 years, we've at least gotten ourselves, into a comfortable position to realign ourselves organizationally, centralize most of our support functions to get to the point where we can start establishing new technology and then capitalizing that across our entire North American region. The group we've just recently formed is at least a reestablishment on a larger scale for North America for our entire value chain. So instead of traditional world where we looked at our supply chain as moving products and mainly parts around into our manufacturing facilities, now we're encompassing everything from our service parts, our dealerships, our finished vehicles, and our inbound parts logistics. So all of it being tied together, utilizing the same technologies, the same systems, the same tools, and the same people and the same processes. So it's a very exciting time.
Absolutely, and no small task. I mean, traditionally, some of those would be parts of different business units or different companies and stuff.
Absolutely.
So finding an alignment on that is really important.
Yes.
And you know, on that point, so what do you think some of those organizational changes, what have been some of the most important parts to help support in accelerating digitalization in logistics and supply chain?
In our particular use case, I think one of the largest hurdles that we had to overcome was understanding when we take regional roles and regional viewpoints or directional assignments, breaking those particular portions down and making sure we focus on how they can be absorbed best at localized levels, regional levels, and then obviously global levels, right? So everyone wants to carry an executive level mission statement, but they have a very tough time trying to translate that back down to the granularity of an end user or a group of end users, right? At a particular site or a particular function, it's not very easy to do that. Luckily for us, we had the organization prior to making any changes. So the organization was prepared to absorb whatever said changes we were looking at least pursuing, instead of the opposite direction, where we went ahead at an executive level and said, we're going to go all in on some consumer off-the-shelf product and then not have a plan for actually engaging and bringing that into the end users. We took it the opposite direction, which hurts our value case per se, but it allows us to be more successful when we're actually fostering the product.
So in other words, that the users are fully bought in, they understand it, it's not rushed in, it's been holistically thought through.
Yeah, and we were lucky, we're relatively late to the game, right? As opposed to some of the North American-based OEMs, certainly much later to the game than a lot of the European-based OEMs. However, lessons learned were things we could take into their particular instances, as well as leveraging retail and CPG, as we've mentioned a little bit earlier.
Yeah, no, it's a really, really good point. I mean, it's good to be an early mover, but actually maybe even better to learn from the early movers.
Yes, absolutely.
You know, I guess there's such a wide field of different tools and technologies, but are there some that you particularly want to highlight as, okay, this is now emerging as an area that we're getting quite excited about?
Yeah, so as I believe the session that we just ended, I know we mentioned a lot about the hive mentality that's currently around AI. We have a substantial portion of our group that is focusing on that, but we're going back to try to focus most of our efforts on digital twins, virtual twins, as well as control towers. We have a lot of partnerships with Dassault that help us at least accelerate in that area. I do believe we're one of the only OEMs on the planet from an automotive perspective that has LiDAR imaging and 3D models for every plant and facility that we have, at least in the North American region. So it allows us to be able to get hands-on, see, touch, and feel from a design perspective on a much, much higher level of granularity, which I think once, or at least we believe, once we get to the point where we're looking at an overarching control tower and then just defining a true digital twin, that the acceleration of value creation, combining all three of those or becoming interoperable, as you would like to say, is going to be much better for us to be able to track with acceleration into our 2030 vision or 2040 and beyond.
And that is really exciting because, of course, with that level of integration, you can map, simulate an engineering change, a technology change at the product side.
Yes.
Understand what it means in the supply chain, in manufacturing.
That's right. And we don't lose per se as much on having an associate do that in an office in Chicago, Illinois. As long as they have an understanding, or at least an innate understanding on how we function and what our mission statements are as a company, right? So we can take some time to foster their skills and then allow them to be able to do things remotely, right? It's no different than us working on virtual models on something that's being developed in Japan, right? Same concept happens where we can take the location of where an associate is out of the equation and allow ourselves to be able to be flexible in that regard.
Absolutely. One of the other things you've been doing here with us, you led a workshop on breaking down data silos.
Yes.
A big topic across this event, and you've already been alluding to some of it. What have you identified either in that workshop or at Honda as some of the biggest barriers and steps that need to be taken to break those silos?
So I think I mentioned in that particular breakout that we've been lucky in that regard to have a need or necessity to break down those silos much in advance of the level one or the end user systems prior to so. So we've had data lakes, we've had data storage. We currently have a combination of an operational data storage and something we're looking into for a cloud-based data storage as it stands right now. We've been utilizing a lot of simulation software up until this particular point and leveraging our existing data lake. One of the biggest portions that I drove back to that group is understanding not only data ownership and getting to the point where you own or have access to a strong, significant portion, 90-95% plus of your data, but then also understanding stewardship level of that data for governance and modeling that based off of where you need that particular portion. If you have more edge systems at your GIMPOs or at your localized sites, you're going to need stewardship at that level. If you don't, and you don't have those particular portions, depending on your business side, then regionalize your stewardship and control it. Because if not, your governance will slip, and then you can't trust what you're looking at.
And then that's a really important point when we start to think about LLMs and Gen AI, so the data governance side. Where's the barrier to ensure that this data is protected and maybe doesn't go public versus what's kept private, but still benefit from this technology?
That's absolutely correct. That is absolutely correct. That's been a very, 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 very strange thing for our business teams to adopt and foster, is the fact that governance and data security or cybersecurity in general has to be brought to the forefront at a business team level instead of just an IT team level, right? So the functionality of what you're trying to achieve, especially with AI and pulling in a lot of external source data products, you are inherently, if you do not take caution, you're going to inject risk into your model. Nobody really wants to do that, right? The technology is not worth that risk.
No, absolutely. Well, Logan, thank you so much for this insight, for sharing with us from the digital twins, from data governance, and all these aspects of organizational change. It's been fantastic to have you at the event and to share this on our red sofa.
Thank you so
much for
being with us.
Chris. Yeah,
thank you.
Pleasure. And thanks again for keep following us here on the Automotive Logistics Supply Chain Red Sofa in partnership with Venturis. There's more interviews to come, more content you can find on our website and our blog and on LinkedIn as well. So thanks very much for being with us.